People fall in love, make love, and have babies. Babies grow at great speeds. For instance, say you were a toddler in the 70s. By now you're probably working in a job that gives you brain freeze, gagging for a pay increase, scrabbling for cash enough in order to ensure you can assuredly procure for your family its basic needs. Life. It's a hard slog, but you're a fighter. You've made it to middle age at least. Even if it does sort of feel like increasingly you waste a lot of days and weeks. But making reasonable money from what you're good at, from the thing you most love, from what best corresponds with your nature, please. Sounds like the stuff of some make-believes. We aren't all special. Gold doesn't pave the streets. When you heard the universities had opted to raise their fees, it made you want to cry like a 2-year-old who got tripped and grazed his knees. And in any case, the girl ain't even going to get a place if she doesn't get the grade she needs. Bright kids should be angling for A's and B's. Instead, what's this? Jeez Louise. Report cards filling up with ADHDs and E's. Doctor, I have a trepidation. My daughter doesn't really match with education. You, sir, need a batch of medication. From here on in, it's just damage limitation. I've heard worse jokes. Like the one about the whole country run by absurd blokes, who, to be fair, have some pretty heavy workloads. Filling out expenses forms for fur coats, validating nightmares and spitting on the embers of our almost fully spurned hopes. 2 people fall in love and make love, thus producing a princess, a little madam. My point being, the life and death cycle of humans begins with a fit of passion. Surely then we should all be splintering the atom, trying to innovate a different pattern, a system not explicitly constructed to render creativity inexplicably distant, conspicuously absent. People fall in love, make love, and have babies, thus providing hard proof that miracles can happen. Which is good to know, because that's what we all are going to need if we're to reinvigorate the listless interactions currently driving entire classrooms to dribbling distraction. Isn't it true that children's brains are predisposed towards vigorous expansion? It seems a pinch peculiar to pickle them like Branston. They take their curiosities and cram them into standardized jars. That's a surefire method for giving the flow of guidance and discovery no real option other than to clot. Kind of like a frozen river sitting stagnant. Our kids are reared like battery hen chicks for individualist conformity, the very worst of both worlds, swiveling in tandem. And when they're grown, we throw them off a cliff into a chasm. And what about the teachers? Helplessly afflicting stupefaction on the kids in their command, the poor things? No. It isn't any of their fault if the system gives them no scope for wisdom. It acts as if it thinks them as ignorant as plankton, leave it to the drizzle of indifference to dampen any lingering scraps of their natural-born instincts for independent action. There are many things in this world I find difficult to fathom. Just picking one at random. Our schools are not designed to facilitate our talents. Something needs to shift swift. This much I think is unmissably apparent, exquisitely transparent. People fall in love. It's an age-old urge. In a bid to be saved, souls merge, bravely giving up the safety of their well-defined outlines to desire's melting pots. They collaboratively tie themselves in knots. And the odds are firmly on that pretty soon they'll be hitting Google up for baby names and buying lots of tiny velvet frocks, as well as flat-pack IKEA climbing frames and cots. The riddle then naturally submitted for dismantling has to be exactly what planet will this infant be inhabiting? In precisely which paradigmatic realms will this little one be languishing? The world is in crisis. All its resources due to pillaging are dwindling, withering, vanishing. We've been indiscriminately gambling on destiny for too long. And now disaster isn't imminent. It's part of our immediate predicament. It's happening. The fact is, if we are to avert the fatal fate towards which we giddily are galloping, we'll need to ease up on the systematic shackling of free thought, experimentation, originality. By the way, will everybody in the Western world please just take 10 deep sniffs and stop panicking? Risk is not inherently damaging. Anyway, back to the list of things I find infinitely staggering, mystifying, baffling. If we would only use our educative establishments for building creativity some scaffolding, set our minds to harnessing, manipulating, channeling the immeasurably large latent imaginations of the next generations, if we would only show some kindness to the spirits we've been strangling, man, the possibilities are dizzyingly dazzling, almost but not quite beyond the limits of imagining. And yet instead we keep miserably battering our stubborn eggheads against this brick wall mountain, even though it's clear we're never going to reach the top, no matter how many years we spend impotently clambering its vertical face. And all the while sitting at the bottom of this barren mound, perfectly placed, is a world worth the turbulent traipse, worth the muscular burn of the chase. I'm talking promised landscapes, capable of burgling the breath, like a life-giving version of a serpent's embrace. I'm talking vast, multifarious orchards, colossal trees downladen with all of the labour of love fruits our true selves are yearning to taste. Look, I'm under no illusions. Ours is a merciless, murderous race. At least half our urges are dirty and base. That being said, just this once, is it too much to ask for the mainstream to role model virtue and grace? After all, the world spins incessant. This earth is eternally turning in space. We are all perpetually commencing and completing revolutions. People fall in love and surrender to the forest fire peace of fleshy unions, mutually convulsing in an ecstasy of sweet electrocutions. As a consequence of which, at this precise moment, there are countless rounded bellies offering hospitality to cheeky fledgling hoodlums. And this myth that any single souls amongst these many men and women are not more than well equipped to be effective students is, to put it tepidly, a deep embedded nuisance. Anyhow, I suppose this poem needs to end. Alas, I've never been a friend of neatly penned conclusions. I guess the bottom line rhyme I'm trying to choke up is that it's obviously high time we finally woke up from this nightmarish culture of mass manufacturing feeble-headed humans in the noble names of decent sense and prudence. We need to schedule in some meet and greets between these manifestly malfunctioning, obscenely obsoleted institutions and a team of persons practiced in the field of executions, or rather amputations, but really just removing a diseased limb. Okay, if I might, I think I'd like to finish off by reeling off a short list of applicable platitudes. The truth is in the seeking. We are what we eat, as is the future we are feeding. Learning comes to infants as instinctively as sleeping. Every single instant is inimitably fleeting, thus this in every instant is for seizing, for gripping and for squeezing. Of course it's all just a little piece of history repeating that goes without whispering or shrieking, scribbling or chirruping or tweeting, but surely with a little bit of innovative scheming we could rustle up some rituals that enrich the thing with meaning. We haven't got to reinvent the principles of wheeling. We only need to tweak our definition of succeeding. We only need to listen to our hearts and synchronize our visions of tomorrow with the rhythms that they're beating. We only need to do what people do and fall in love with ourselves. Make love the main goal and raise up a brave-souled progeny of new schools a little more holistic in their leanings. Humans are unique in their productive versatility of feeling. We do crazy things like writing symphonies and reading. Our realities are moulded by the fictions we believe in. That's what makes us different from a gibbon or a tree chimp, a kitten or a sleek mink, a chicken or a sea shrimp. Everything hinges on our capacity to dream. Anyway, you get the picture. There's some things we need to rethink.